3, sometimes 4 times a year, and 3, sometimes 4 weeks at a time, Mercury will go retrograde. And anytime Mercury goes retrograde, I know it can be inconvenient. It's not easy to think about how the planet that has to do with making plans and travel and journeys and thought processes, well, that very planet appearing to go backwards in the sky can be a very obvious symbol for how it is that conversations, communications, and journeys themselves, well, they can take certain detours, or it can feel as if we are going 2 steps forward and 1 step back. And yet, Mercury retrograde is part of the wisdom of the great tapestry of the universe. And it is part of the perfection of whatever needs to play out. The great blessing of Mercury retrograde is it invites us to reflect, to think more deeply, to get honest with ourselves if we like the direction in which we're going in at least one area of life. And yes, that might mean we have to look at things we thought were settled over again. It might mean we have to change course, change plans, or to consider how it is that a mix up or a miscommunication actually occurred. But it'll only happen if it's necessary. And in the case of this Mercury retrograde taking place from July 17th to August 11th, 2025, well, this is happening entirely in the sign of Leo, which has to do with specialness, which has to do with the thing that only you can do, and which has to do with how it is we might just align our hearts with this more magnificent understanding of where it is that we are to be. Whether it has to do with people, place, things, or situations, well, a retrograde planet can be downright uncanny, downright karmic in how it is that it invites us to see things very differently. And in so doing, we understand what deeper karmic patterns might be playing out, but we're also invited to resolve them so that we don't have to repeat the things that we perhaps have already learned from. We get to now move forward. And this Mercury retrograde ultimately invites us to move forward towards heart, towards a full ownership of who we are, and understanding that our loyalties lie towards that light and shining it even more brightly. Now, how this Mercury retrograde will speak to you in your sign depends on your sun, moon, and rising. Take all three into consideration, synthesize the information to make it unique to you. And of course, there's lots more horoscopes available right now over on my YouTube channel, Nadiya_Shah, and over in the superstar space at thefutureismagical.com. Aries, romance, flirtation, what the heart wants in every area of life is what is highlighted here. If anybody out there is likely to be getting your flirt on with unexpected results, it's you. But this can also be like random, unexpected, out of nowhere, uncanny reunions with people that maybe you dated before. This isn't necessarily like people you were in relationship with before, though. This is like people who were lovers, who were someone that maybe you just enjoyed a little bit of time with, or someone that you might have had your eye on before. Now they come back around as part of considering whether or not there could be something here going forward, or at the very least to give you another look as to the judgment you had before and where now you just might be different. Taurus, home, the past, your living situation, and your family of origin, your parents in particular. If anybody out there is going to feel like out of nowhere, their past just shows up, it certainly is you. Now, this could be surprise family reunions. Reunions in general tend to be very common when it is that we have Mercury retrograde. But yeah, in the most unexpected ways and places, you might run into family members, maybe those from long ago. For all that, though, this might also be a time when you get a chance to see your past differently and where it is that perhaps you need to bring a more loving lens to what was before. Well, that ultimately will end up freeing you to live that much more in the present today. Outside of that, though, buying, selling, moving, attracting a new roommate, just be careful with that, only because what you think it is and what it ends up being might be very different. However, this could also be things working out a lot better than you initially thought. Gemini, communication, siblings, cousins, neighbors. So If anybody out there is likely to feel that communication might get wonky, it is you. However, remember, a key characteristic of this time is the way that Mercury will be dancing with Venus, especially this week with Venus in your sign. I love this energy for you. I have to say, to me, this represents your heart being in it and your mind and heart feeling very connected at this time. So new conversations, new interactions, new perspectives where it comes to your siblings, cousins, neighbors, reunions with them that you didn't expect becomes possible now. Also possible is the way in which synchronicity takes you by surprise, you being in the right place at the right time, meeting the right person. Well, with a Mercury retrograde like this, it could make all the difference. Cancer, money you earn, money you spend, self-love, self-esteem, financial opportunities you thought were gone might come back around in ways that take you by surprise, that feel downright unexpected, and will likely feel like they come out of nowhere, like a blessing. For all that, though, this is also an opportunity to really look at how you're spending money, what's worth spending money on, and also what isn't. And bringing greater consciousness to an understanding of where you are in terms of healthy self-love and healthy self-respect. How do you define that? How does that show up for you? How does that look for you? Well, this is where you get a more nuanced understanding of some truth of where it is that perhaps you could be demonstrating a greater sense of self-value, the different ways in which that shows up, and now coming to greater awareness, you're ready to do things differently. Leo, identity, priorities, who you know yourself to be, and what matters to you most and first. With Mercury retrograde, just when you think you know, it might end up being something very different. So strive to stay honest with yourself. Now, the wonderful way this energy might play out, well, where it is that you might have felt disconnected from some key part of you, where you might have forgotten some essence about whom it is that you are, that reminder could feel like it stirs, like it shows up for you again. Where it is that perhaps you've been placing too much priority on things that don't really matter and shouldn't be center focus, you'll be able to see that now more clearly. Now, ultimately, this energy invites you to consider, to contemplate whom it is that you really are. Once Mercury goes direct in the middle of August, that's when you'll have a much clearer answer about how to go about implementing it and living it. Virgo, closing karmic ties, ending karmic chapters, fortunate karmic closures. That is where this Mercury retrograde is taking place. With your ruling planet in a retrograde season, it makes this time that much more important. Whatever comes, let it. Whatever goes, let it as well. This is a time of connecting with faith, of knowing that you have so much more yet to do in this lifetime. And keep in mind, in September, Mercury is going to come home to your sign. And that is when you're going to be so grateful for what it is that feels like you don't have a lot of power over it right now. Space is being created for the new and the next to rush in a way that brings absolute delight. That is right around the corner with Mercury in your sign. For now, use this time well, connecting with a knowing that you have so much more yet to do in this lifetime. Even if you don't know all the details just yet, it's okay. It'll fall into place. Libra, friendships, group alliances, professional group endeavors, and uncanny ways in which, like the last person you expected to run into in the last place you expected, well, that's the kind of thing that we might have happening for you over the course of this larger Mercury retrograde season. But it does look like a delightful reunion overall. Now, for all that, this can represent one of those times when you are re-invited to participate once again in some sort of a group endeavor or group project. Now, what are you going to do about it? How are you going to approach it? Whether or not that feels right for you is another thing. But just know, if you are accepting new opportunities with Mercury retrograde here, especially where it comes to contributing to a larger group endeavor, well, once Mercury does go direct in the middle of August, whatever it seems like your role is, what's happening now, it just might look very different once it is that you get to the other side of the retrograde. So pace yourself, knowing that in some ways, perhaps some hope or wish, some far out, flung out thing that you thought you really wanted, but then it wasn't for you, that might be the thing that comes back around, thanks to someone you know. Scorpio, career, social standing, life purpose, and your understanding of a higher, more loving vision for your life. Career opportunities you thought came and went. It might just be those that come back around, in some cases, uncanny ways, and they might even be better than they were before. I was saying earlier, people say that opportunity only knocks once. That is absolutely ridiculous, and I think that this retrograde is going to show that to you as well. For all that, though, this could be random reunions with old bosses or people in positions of authority. This could also be a downright uncanny way you have of running into people, maybe who have a large social status or even fame as well, as part of awakening and understanding of all it is that you might still have yet to do or desire to achieve in this lifetime. This could also be a moment when you are considering your life from a larger perspective, gaining valuable heart-centered insights into what a higher, more loving vision for your life might be. And this could be a time when you are reclaiming something oriented around what you believe your purpose is that you might have let go. Well, now you're ready to own it and live it that much more fully. Sagittarius, long distance travel, immigration, citizenship, higher learning, and legal matters, and your relationship with the world is what's covered here. Now, if it is that you are involved in perhaps like a legal matter or an institute of higher learning, know that in these particular spaces and places is where delays and mix-ups become that much more likely or possible now. Not necessarily the most fun energy, and yet it can be a time that invites you to look more deeply at your pathway forward in terms of these endeavors. So for example, if you are connected to an institute of higher learning, what is your role there? Do you like it? How might it change? What's working for you? What isn't? If you work within legal institutions, the same questions might apply. Now, this could be a chance to revisit old spaces and places in ways that feel uncanny or unexpected, but ultimately give you another look at where you've been. Now, that could be literal, but that could also be metaphorical in helping you to understand what your relationship with the world is now, where it is that you just might be going next. Capricorn, profound change, truth, transformation, regeneration, and wealth. You just might have a very uncanny ability to attract grants, loans, higher credit card limits, or benefits that you qualify for in ways that might take you by surprise, and accessing resources in a way that feel like a blessing. This might be a time when you are reconsidering, reevaluating, renegotiating certain loan terms that might have been there before. For all that, though, this might be energy that orients itself much more around personal growth and change, looking more deeply at yourself and understanding what stays and what goes. Now, ultimately, this is about understanding who you really are, connecting to an authentic sense of whom it is that you most desire to be, including who you most desire to be next, what's got to change to make that happen, and cultivating the absolute fortitude to commit to the journey that gets you there. Aquarius, partnership, relationships, love as well is covered here. A chance to look at where you've been in love and how you feel about it and where it is that you are now. You are one of the signs that needs to be mindful that breakups that happen with this energy tend to not stay broken up, that misunderstandings with partners become that much more likely. Uncanny reunions with past partners in your life could also be part of the signature of this time. But for all that, it ultimately gives you a chance to understand what love is going to be for you now and going forward from here. And who's going to be part of that? Well, they are going to be the ones to either find you or move forward. But also know, if you're meeting brand new people, what you think it is, what it ends up being could be very different, could be a whole lot better, but you'll have to pace yourself and be yourself along the way to finding out. Pisces, clients, customers, coworkers, immediate supervisors from the past might have very uncanny ways of just showing up. You might run into them in the last place that you expected. For all that, though, this could also be work-related opportunities that you thought were gone that might come back around as well. And it's going to be rooted in what it is you do well, what you've demonstrated that you know how to do. Now, this can also show up in terms of your health-related habits. Maybe you let go of a habit, now you choose to pick it up again and you see the rewards there. Health-related testing, just know that the results could be kind of all over the place and not necessarily accurate. So if you have a choice, and if it's just the routine stuff, you might want to delay just a little bit until we get to the later part of August and we have a stronger Mercury here. But for all that, if you don't have a choice, stay open to what it is that you might find out as part of learning to take the best of care of you.